So I'm Emily Hammond. My husband and I are not from Buffalo. We came here from Iowa via Wisconsin, via Michigan. So we've been around a couple places. But we lived in Iowa when we first got married and then moved out here for my job, which I teach engineering classes at the University of Buffalo. And he's a software engineer for a company back in Iowa still. Okay, so that's a lot, it goes back quite a bit. For some obscure reason in my brain, naively, I was like, you know what, when I get married, like adoption is something I want to be a part of my life. Like I said, very naive, not really knowing everything that entails. And so adoption is something we've been talking about even before we got married, which is really cool. When we found out we couldn't have our own kids biologically, I don't know, feels like forever now, we really started to pursue different types of adoption. And somehow we landed on foster care. And so we started pursuing what it means to be certified, and it was our first MAP class. And we came home from it, and Tony, my husband, looked at me and he's like, this is so much more than adoption. He's like, we're not just going in it for adopting. It's about the kids, it's about the families. We've got to commit to foster care and or adoption, however that plays out. So that's the short story. Like I said, it started a really long time ago. And it's just grown from them. We've had one placement so far. And I think we've learned a lot from it. But that's how we got started into it. Yeah. So we just finalized the adoption, and we wanted a couple months where things weren't changing. But starting in summer after the semester ends, we're gearing up towards, okay, another placement, another kid, what does that look like? So yeah, we actually just met with our home finder last week. And so we had that discussion of what ages, what types, so those weird questions that nobody thinks about. But as a foster parent, it's like, okay, what's your checkbox? What's your level of risk that you're willing to, I don't know, take into your house? And it's I don't know, it's different. like my friends who are having their own babies aren't thinking about that stuff, but it's something that we think about. So, like I said, we've only had one placement, and it has ended up in an adoption. But I don't think our mentality has ever been only adoption, ever since that first MAP class. And I don't even know where my brain was. I think my brain, when we first went into the MAP classes, was just like, okay, let's learn more about it. Let's see what it's like to bring kids to our house. But it's never been just about adoption. And like I said, we've learned a lot in our first placement. And I think being involved with a child and their biological family and seeing how those tie together and understanding what my role is as a foster parent versus what they have to do, it's not black and white. It's not just about, well, my house is better, or I'm obviously taking care of this kid better because I have all these resources. It's not black and white. There's so much more that goes into being a foster parent and interacting with a child and their biological family. So one of the things we've really been thinking about when it comes to even our adoption that we've had is for us to adopt means that he has to lose something, which I might start tearing, which I think, so the first time that idea came into my mind, I think, was we had our son for about a year, placed for a year, and after about a year is starting to be like, okay, you know, it's been a while. Are they gonna go back soon? Are they gonna be reunified? And something happened in our case that wasn't great. And I remember just crying. And I don't think I realized why I was crying for a while. And I think I was crying because that's the first time when I realized, when I realized that he's gonna have to go through a lot of hurt and loss, and that he might not go back. And now I know he's not going to be reunified. I mean, we still maintain contact with his biological mother. But it's hard because you're watching your kid or kids go through your house and knowing that they have to go through this pain and this struggle, and it's never something that they want to they choose or they want to go through. So to just have adoption as a goal, it's two-sided. It's for us to adopt a child means that that child has to lose something. Even if it's a great relationship with their biological parents or family, there's still a loss there. And I know every kid will be different. Every kid is different, but it's, the idea of just adopting isn't always like, yeah, we're gonna adopt. Like, there's a lot more that goes into that. As hard as reunifying a child would be for us emotionally, it's still something that hopefully would be best in that situation. We haven't had to go through it, but we're definitely willing to deal with those emotions. I'm saying that now on this side of things. Some of the really great things that I've seen with our placement that we've had is just you get to see a child grow. And like I said, I don't have my own biological, so like when we had our son placed with us, he was a little over 2.5, and he wasn't walking because of some physical limitations. When he first came, he could walk, he just wasn't walking at the time. And like, when he started walking, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the first time he's walking for us. And I was like, I understand now why first-time moms are like, here, look, a picture of my baby. Like, they're smiling. And it's like, well, okay, it's a baby smiling. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. I get how you can be really excited to see those jumps and leaps in your children, because it's just so new and exciting, and you get to see a child grow. And sometimes it's as simple as like, you know, he didn't yell at me after I just said this today, which is also a challenge. Dealing with the emotions of a child that doesn't know how to handle their emotions. But you get to see them grow, which I think is just a joy of parenting in general, not limited to foster parents. I think another thing is his relationship with his biological parents as well. When he was first placed into care, he was one kind of kid. But like when he first did visits with his parents, he was excited, but like he wouldn't run up to them. Whereas after a year, he started running up to them. Like, he was excited for visits. he really likes his biological parents, as he should. So just to see his relationship with them grow, specifically his mom, seeing them grow in their relationship has been really cool. I don't know, our relationship with his bio mom, I don't know any different. There are aspects of her that I really appreciate. I had a decent relationship for him, and there have been times where I've been able to say some comforting words. I'm not a person of lots of words. I am not, and especially when it comes to interactions with bio parents. I tend to say little, but there have been times where I've noticed things aren't going very well, and so I'll ask, do you need a hug? And she's a hugger, so she's like, yeah, I'll take a hug. So I'll give her a hug. Or there was one time where things were going very well. And so I just looked at her and I was like, you'll always be his mom. Because she is always going to be his mom. She's gonna hold a place in his heart that I can't. And I'm hoping that the relationship with her is good and he can continue to see her, because it's best for him to know that. And it's a good enough situation where I'm not concerned about his emotional health or mental health or anything. So I'm really grateful that she's maintained that ability to that healthy level to still interact with him. It's I don't know, sometimes I think about our situation and I hear other foster parents and stuff, and I'm grateful that we have that. Our son's mom is, like, her bio mom is who she is. Since the adoption. So she surrendered. So she essentially said, I can't do it, and I know he's in a good place. Which I'm very grateful for that decision. But one of the things we've been very mindful of is trying to maintain as much consistency between what was required by the courts and what happened after the surrender. So we've tried to maintain that consistency. We still meet with her every other week, because I wouldn't. So the surrender, the terms were 4 visits a year, but to jump from weekly visits to 4 visits a year is very abrupt. Like, that seems so drastic for both her and for our son. So we're like, well, we don't want to necessarily chop that interaction off. It's been healthy. We haven't seen any significant issues from the visits. So we decided to maintain as much as possible in terms of consistency. So I don't think the relationship has changed much since the adoption. I know one thing that has changed is now our son knows where he's gonna be, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, which is nice in terms of, from our perspective, of being able to tell him what life is gonna be like. Because when you're a foster parent, you don't plan too far ahead. Okay, I know I've got another month or, 3 months, but for me, planning for summer has always been really stressful because I don't know what life is gonna be like. I don't know, are we gonna have a kid or are we not gonna have a kid? So it's nice to have that consistency. Don't have any expectations. Have no expectations because they're not gonna be met. That's the biggest thing. I think one of the best things we probably did was we got more training other than the MAP classes. We went through something called TBRI, trust-based relational intervention. I don't remember what it is, TBRI. But we had some additional training that we had no idea how to apply it because we didn't have an immediate situation to apply it to. But we at least had some additional tools in our toolbox when we started, which I think was great. Not at all did we feel like we were ready for someone to just drop a 2-year-old off on your doorstep and they're like, okay, have fun. And you're like, okay, I have a kid in my house now. This is weird. But it was still, we had more in our toolbox, which was great because we had something to pull from. And the MAP classes are good, but the MAP classes it's not a therapy tool. It's here's the system, here's why the system exists. This is, it's much more informational, whereas we had some training that was, we're like, okay, how do you relate to a child who has been through trauma to the best of your ability? What are some tools you can do? What are some strategies you can start to employ for building trust with a child that you have no connection to? So I think that was really useful, and I recommend everybody do some additional training before they start. But yeah, a lot of it is just remove all expectations.